Mahantesh, what are your picks?
So we have identified a couple of, or rather a set of stocks. So we have the likes of a Precall in the automobile ancillary space. We have a Repco Finance as one of our picks. We have Skipper Limited which is into electrical distribution towers, and you have the likes of. So I named Precall, Repco, Skipper, and let me identify.
Yeah, so
Sorry.
that's fine. Three picks. And what are your potential upside on these three names? More than 20%?
Basically, yes, some of these stocks are pretty high. So Precall, the target price is about 144. The stock has taken a beating quite a bit. Post its results of Q2, as well as with the recent risk-off trade in terms of the demonetization effect. We have Repco Finance also suffering because of that, but then we are seeing a gradual recovery there. The Repco's target is about 716 for us. And then we have Skipper, which is about 178 in terms of our target price. So the upsides are pretty much large.
Right. I'll just come back to you, Mahantesh. Vikas Sethi is also with us. Vikas, you have 2 buy calls and 1 sell call.
Good morning, Pankaj. I have 2 buy calls. I have a buy call on Oil India Limited for today. I think with the agreement at OPEC to cut oil production, crude prices have gone up and they would continue to go up, and the major beneficiaries would be crude oil producers in the country. So among them, I think Oil India would be the best bet. So the stock was strong yesterday despite the markets being weak, and I think that positive momentum should continue in the stock. I have a target today on Oil India of around 440 rupees. My second buy call would be on Wipro. I think IT sector also is doing well. Despite the markets being weak yesterday, IT sector was doing well. They would be a major beneficiary of the weakness which we are witnessing in the rupee. And furthermore, we have some positive news in the form of the Wipro bagging an order from an Australian oil and gas company, which is a good sized order. So I am bullish on Wipro for today, and I have a target of 485 rupees on Wipro today. And my third call would be a sell call, and the sell call would be on Hero MotoCorp. Hero MotoCorp announced its numbers, I think this morning. The numbers were pretty bad. The markets anyways was expecting lower numbers from Hero MotoCorp for the November month because of the impact of demonetization, but they've even been lower than what the markets were expecting. So I think the stock would correct further today, and I have a target of 3100 on Hero MotoCorp for today.
All right, so got 3 calls coming in from Vikas. Gaurav, what are your topics?
Good morning. My first recommendation would be sell on Hindalco. We have seen the crucial levels of 175 being breached with volumes. Some shorts have been seen getting built. So a small trading target of 165, stop loss of 175, 176. Second is sell on Bharti Airtel. We have seen 330, 325 zone proving as a strong resistance in previous levels also. So utilizing those 325 level as a stop loss, one can sell Bharti for targets of 310. Among the buy recommendation, Marico looks good. Coming out of consolidation, decent amount of long positions, a small targets of 270 with a stop loss of 248. And Wipro, I agree that the stock is looking quite well on the cusp of giving a small breakout in daily charts. Stop loss of 460, target of 485.
Target of 45 on Wipro. Sumit, what are your topics? Can you tell us?
We have already discussed the topics. We have already given 3 picks. All the 3 picks are like, first one is Dr. Reddy, second one is ONGC, and the third one is DLF. 2 are on buy side and DLF is on sell side. So we are expecting a bit upside move in Dr. Reddy and ONGC, and a sell view on DLF for the targets of 107 and 102 levels.
Right. Sumit, do you have a view on any of the telecom stocks? Bharti Idea. One of our guests has a sell call on Bharti. Gaurav has a sell call on Bharti. But on the charts, do you have a view on Bharti and Idea?
Yes, absolutely, Anisha. Well, we are expecting a downside move in both these stocks like Idea and Bharti Airtel. Both are looking weak now. After a small pullback, we have seen selling pressure at higher levels, and Idea yesterday only had given a breakdown. Now it seems that this time there is a possibility that we might see a breakdown below 70 levels too. That means immediately, if anyone wants to initiate a position in Idea, then that should be on sell side. We feel that this time 70 will be taken away, and on downside there is a possibility that we might see levels of around 65 too. So I think if anyone wants to initiate a position in Idea, then that should be on sell side with a stop loss to be placed at 77 or 77.50 on high side for the downside target of 70 and 65 levels. As far as Bharti is concerned, yes, absolutely, it's looking weak on chart, and on downside there is a possibility that we might see levels of around 300 or probably 290 also. I think if anyone wants to initiate a position in Bharti, then that should also be on sell side with a stop loss to be placed at 325 or probably 326 on high side for the downside target of 300 and 295 levels.
Right. In terms of auto and auto sales numbers, they trickle in. So we had Maruti yesterday, we had Ashok Leyland, some of the other ones. Post-market hours, TVS Motors declared its numbers, 2.24 lakh units, down about 0.02%. Tata Motors, that's only the India part, which is their PV plus CV business, 38,900, absolutely flat. JLR declared its US sales numbers, US retail numbers, or when you get the US registration numbers, you get these numbers which come out on first. But India time, they come out in the night. So 9,040, good numbers, 18.9%. Hero MotoCorp came out this morning, 12.9% decline, 4.79 lakhs. Bajaj Auto is now the only one which is remaining. Eicher Motors did give out its numbers, but they gave out during market hours. The management in the con call, they had a con call yesterday to just see the impact of demonetization or give an update on the demonetization. Management sees very, very minimum impact from demonetization at this stage. In the past week, the trends have normalized. So first 5-6 days, there were some problems, but then they have seen this. No major material cancellation. Yes, 30 to 40% of their sales were coming in from cash, but they have not seen any major changes over there. In fact, a lot of people are moving towards the electronic payment mode, and that is something which probably they are finding interesting. Outstanding order books continue to be strong, which means they have a waiting period, and that's why those sort of names would continue to do well.
All right, let's talk about a little more about the monthly data that has come through. And Coal India has given its production figures. For the month of November, production was up 5% and the offtake also increased 6.2%. In October, compared to October, they've seen an uptick coming in the production. There was a belief that because of demonetization, the offtake could be affected because the cash was in short supply. But so far, that has not taken place, and we have seen an uptick coming in as on production as well as the offtake for Coal India. Let's also talk about some other stocks that we are watching out for on news developments. Aurobindo Pharma has received US FDA nod for clozapine oral tablets. These tablets are used to reduce the risk of suicidal behavior in people. We have Advanced Enzymes. The board has approved the acquisition of JC Biotech for about 50 crore rupees. Clariant Chemicals came out with its second quarter earnings. Their profits came in higher, 3.5 crore rupees versus 2.5 crore rupees, up 40%. The top line was largely flat at 255 crore rupees. Shilpa Medicare, the board has approved issuing equity up to 175 crore rupees at the rate of 570 rupees a share. And there are a host of mid-cap stocks coming out with their earnings, which include Ashok Buildcon, Endurance, IL and FS Transport, and Pharma. We'll be watching out for all of these stocks.
Right. Just as we were speaking about the auto sales numbers, and Bajaj Auto is the one which was remaining. They've just declared their numbers, 2.7 lakh units versus 3.1 lakh units on a YOY basis. But of course, it's demonetization. It's a big impact, and that's why, it's very difficult to say how the stock would react. Mahantesh, in terms of auto sales, something like a Maruti did benefit just because they had bookings earlier as well. So people had booked their car earlier, but they took delivery. So you got a replacement demand over there.
Yeah, this can be clearly seen if you look at the sales breakup of Maruti. Then the utility vehicle portion of the sales is up, if I'm right, about 60% That's where the Brezza is clubbed. So Brezza is seeing a huge momentum and uptick because of its order backlog. So wasn't surprised with the way Maruti has overcome the demonetization effect and posted good numbers. Hopefully they will continue to do well, but then in the month of December we should look at a typical maintenance shutdown. Maruti typically has a maintenance shutdown around the month of December, so they will go light on inventory by the time the December ends. So December sales numbers should be muted.
Right. And overall, what do you make of the auto numbers and the impact? Do you think 1-2 months investors would discount it because it can be one-off?
Yeah, it is. In an automobile sales, you should understand that many of the purchases have been postponed. We have had this phenomena even in the past for various events. So automobile sales typically go through that cycle of postponement and preponement kind of thing. So this is the time where we have seen postponed sales, and we should be able to see a recovery of the sales as we move into the next quarter by the time it is January or February. Cash is not a crunch for most of the automobile companies.
Right. Bajaj Auto numbers at the bottom of your screen, 13% decline, 2.69. Mahantesh, more impact will come on the two-wheeler pack, but they will recover also fast once there is money circulation in the system?
Yeah, there will be a fast recovery because what we can see as far as two-wheelers is concerned, what typically happens is the down payment which is made for vehicles that are financed, and majority of the vehicles are financed at the retail level, is paid in cash, typically in the rural dealerships. So that being a problem, people have now moved to either the electronic payment or are able to manage some amount of cash, because the relaxation offered by the government for farmers, for example, in terms of withdrawal, has definitely helped boost the sentiment, and therefore we should see sales recovering. Moreover, we have the Rabi crop acreage data coming in, which gives a little bit of confidence and says that probably the cropping is not affected by the demonetization. So all this phenomena tells us that the sales will recover.
Right. Gaurav, you have looked at F&O for a while, but you seem that this expiry this series, we have yet not seen any major pickup. It's a long series, and that's why probably with a lot of events, that's why probably investors are just waiting before any major position.
It looks like that. If you look at the rollover numbers for the previous series, we have seen that they were one of the lowest in terms of the total open interest carried over, and in terms of the overall percentage as well. So yes, what you are saying makes sense. People have not taken aggressive positions. Probably they will take some time. And that is the reason why we are seeing some amount of volatility in the markets in coming days. But yes, there's some time that will be taken to build the positions in coming days.
So, we have RBI meet next week. We have the Fed meet coming up soon. OPEC has now gone behind. Probably we'll get more data coming in on the demonetization by 14th or 15th when we have the Fed meet. Do you think only after that people would start to take positions because majority of the events would be behind?
I think it will start before. It will take few days. Probably from next week we can see some positions getting built. There are some instances where we are seeing pockets where we are seeing positions getting built. It just has to translate into the indexes as well. So we'll see from next week. But I would not say once the event is over then we'll see the positions. I think it will be done before the events are
in anticipation of what is
yes.
Yeah.
Vikas, I wanted to understand your view on some of the pharma stocks. What would you do with stocks like Lupin, Aurobindo? I would keep Sun and Dr. Reddy's out for the time being, but we've seen approvals and US FDA nods coming in for Lupin, for Aurobindo. Do you think some of these pharma stocks make a good investment case?
Sure, Anisa. I like the pharma space because first they are all beaten down. The entire sector has not performed over the last, say, 2 to 3 years. So here on, we are getting some positive news in the form of some approvals or announcements from the US FDA. And to add to that, say biggies like Sun Pharma, they reported good set of numbers, and they're expected to, I think, get positive news as far as their Halol plant is also concerned. So that looks good. And your specific query on Lupin and Aurobindo Pharma, they also look pretty good. Aurobindo Pharma continues to remain a favorite among the big pharma space. So I'm bullish on Auro Pharma, I'm bullish on Sun Pharma. So I would recommend investors to buy into these stocks at this time when they are beaten down. And I think if one holds on to them for about a year, we could see upsides of 25 to 30% on both these stocks.
All right. Mahantesh, would you have a view on some of the private sector banks? IndusInd Bank is down 2% today. We have seen the likes of ICICI also not performing too well. Do you have a view on private sector banks like IndusInd, Yes, and ICICI Bank?
We've been generally very positive on the banking space per se, and private sector banks are also part of that positive phenomena that we will see. So we're going to see post this demonetization, the credit growth start picking up quite substantially as we move into the next year. We are already seeing a couple of effects from that demonetization, which is favoring banks. We have seen bond yields crash. We have seen treasury profits being made. We are seeing a lot of NPA resolutions that are happening because of the demonetization drive. We have now huge deposit growth, which will be usefully deployed for credit growth. So we will see a large credit growth happening later down in the year. And in terms of valuations, most of the banks are looking extremely cheap. So the likes of an ICICI Bank is a rank underperformer when compared to its peers. So therefore, it does appear to be very attractive. IndusInd Bank, that you named, has fallen quite sharply from its peak. So all in all these banks look very attractive to us. So the entire banking space, yes, and some of the underperforming banks, definitely yes, is our view.
Sumit, any view on Bharti Infratel? It was among the top gainers yesterday as well. Today it's up 1%. So among the telecom pack, of course, it's not exactly a telecom service provider, but that one name is looking good.
Pankaj, yes, Infratel is looking good. In fact, in last 4 to 5 days, we have seen that stock has given a good move from lower levels. That means from the levels of 350, the stock has come up to 390 levels. Immediately, the stock has resistance at around 390, 91 levels, and it's presently quoting near resistance levels only. I think if we see breakout above 390, then we can see an extended move in the counter till 410, 420 levels. Overall, yes, the counter is looking strong. If we see breakout with volumes, then surely we can see levels of around 410 or 420 levels in next couple of days. Downside, the stock has immediate support at around 375 levels, and below that the major support level is 350. So the overall range for the stock is 350 to 390, and a breakout above 390 will take stock to 410 levels. So yes, it's looking strong. One can hold on the existing positions.
Right. In terms of Aisha, any view, Sumit?
Well, see, auto stocks have already given a good move in last 2 to 3 days time horizon. Now looking at the structure of the Aisha Motors, it seems that the stock will face small resistance at around 22,700, 22,800 levels. I think presently it's quoting at around 22,360 or 370. From here we can see some selling pressure in the counter, and there is a possibility that we can again see levels of around 20,300, 20,500 levels in next couple of days. I think till the time we don't see any convincing close above 22,800 or probably 23,000, it's better to avoid long position at present levels. Since markets are showing some weakness, there is a possibility that all the frontliner auto stocks can show some selling pressure, and there is a possibility that we might see correction. As far as Aisha Motor is concerned, it's better to avoid long position at present levels, because there is a possibility that again we can see some more correction in the counter, in which stock can touch levels of around 2,500 on lower side.
Right. Gaurav, any call on Biocon? That's a name which is up 1.5. I think it's recovered quite a bit from the lows.
Well, Biocon has a good amount of long positions in last few trading sessions, and if you look at the kind of data, 900 is a very crucial level. So as long as it is above 900 levels, things will be fine. Since the lot size is quite large for the price, I would say that stop loss of 920, one can go long for targets of 965 to 970, or play with either a 960 call option. That would also make sense.
Right. In terms of any other pharma names that you like?
We probably would go with Dr. Reddy, yes, but not at these levels, a little bit higher. Once it catches the trend, I think that is one name that would be standing out, and that is quite strong. And Wockhardt Pharma among the mid-cap names, it's eccentric, so it generally doesn't move percent or a couple of percent. It generally moves 5-7%, 8% in a week. So yes, that is looking strong. 690 can be the stop loss, target would be 740.
Right. Vikas, how would you look at the markets? Which are the sectors to go overweight on, or sectors to look at, say if the markets fall? What would you keep your eye on?
Yeah, Pankaj, actually I continue to remain bullish on the markets from a medium to long term point of view. Although in the short term I expect a lot of volatility because we have to react to three major events over the next fortnight. The Italy referendum on Sunday would be something to watch out for, and then we have an RBI credit policy on the 7th, and then Fed's meeting on 14th of December. So all these events would ensure that the markets continue to remain volatile in the short term, but then any correction in the market would definitely be a buying opportunity for long-term investors. The sectors which I would be looking at would be the ones which have been beaten down recently because of the fears of demonetization. The consumption story has been badly beaten down. So I think one would be better off to look at housing finance companies which have been beaten down recently because of the impact of demonetization. In my opinion, interest rates would come down in the next few quarters, and they would come down substantially. And property prices are also expected to fall, which would be benefiting these housing finance companies. So housing finance would be one sector to watch out for. Even other sectors in the NBFC space and the microfinance space look good. And then pharma and IT, because of the weakness in the rupee and the recovery which is expected in the US, I think both the sectors would continue to do well. So I'm even bullish on pharma and IT. And I would also like to add banking as a sector to be looked at, because I feel the ample liquidity which is being created in the system would straight away benefit banks, and the say reduction in interest rate would lead to an improvement in credit offtake in the coming quarters or years. And with the government also focusing on making some infrastructure spend and ensuring that the GDP growth rate does not come down. So I think banking would stand to benefit. So one could look at even banking as a space from say 9 to 12 months point of view.
Right. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us this morning. Mahantesh, just request you to stay on. Gaurav, before we end, any disclosures?
No personal holdings in the stocks or strategies discussed today. It is possible that we may have recommended them to a client at LKP.
Sumit, any disclosures for you?
Yes, Pankaj, absolutely. The stocks which you have discussed over here, same stocks we discussed with our clients too. So it's better to assume that our clients might have position on the front end stocks which you have discussed over here. Thank you very much, Pankaj.
Vikas, finally for you.
Yeah, Pankaj, I think it would be safe to assume that the stocks which we have discussed today, I could have them in my portfolio, as well as I would have recommended them to my clients and friends.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. Mahantesh, I just wanted to get your perspective on the market as well. What is your view on the markets with such moves coming in? Probably one would say the economy is punctured for a while before circulation happens again. How do you think investors would react?
So first, let me talk about what the market is trading at currently. Of course, when you look at from a 1 year forward perspective, certain earnings are a little uncertain, and the entire earnings downgrade cycle is not yet over. But with the current earnings that we have outstanding in the market, the Nifty seems to be trading somewhere around 14.5 times its forward multiple. That's very cheap from historical perspective. Plus,
but that's assuming that earnings cut would happen or not happen.
There will be further earning cuts. So a 14.5, which is currently the valuation, would appear to be 15.2 maybe once the earnings cut happens. Even by that reckoning, the market is fairly cheap. And then we are at a stage where, when we look at it from a CAGR perspective, when you look at a 3-year CAGR perspective, then the earnings in the market for the last 3 years have been pathetic. In fact, it's been just about 2 or 3%. And we are going to be looking at, in the next 3 years, a fantastic earnings growth, maybe of the order of 20% plus. So the cyclical upturn in earnings is going to begin. The puncture that you talked about is only a short-term phenomena, probably for 3 months, maybe it's for 6 months. We really don't know at this juncture. But for a really long-term investor, the valuation therefore is extremely cheap. Earnings recovery is round the corner, and the global worries we had thus far in terms of the Fed wanting to raise interest rates, the oil prices, uncertainty, all is being now addressed. We have a buoyant oil market now thanks to the OPEC agreement on production cuts. While oil prices do go up, please understand that the risk on trade goes up. That means the valuation multiples that are typically ascribed to a market tend to expand. So we are in for good times as we look ahead. For really long-term investors, this is the right time to be in the market.
Right. As you said, then, you have earlier said that, you would not, want to go ahead and buy if the valuations are very expensive. So you're changing that stance that now valuations are decent, at least for the large cap investors. They can come out, start to buy even the entire Nifty via the ETF?
Yes, you are right. About 6 months back, things were not so rosy. We were looking at possibly a good monsoon, but the distribution of the monsoon was not yet known. We were looking at the uncertainty linked to the US elections. We weren't sure about what is likely to happen for the global commodity markets and so on and so forth. But now should I say thanks to demonetization, the market's valuations are actually cheap. So this provides a right entry point for long-term investors, and yes, to answer your question, the view has definitely changed for the positive from us.
Right. In terms of what to go overweight on, what are the because demonetization is a big thing. Plus, we have seen changes into US. Fed may give a different commentary than what they've given earlier. What are the sectors do you think would be safe enough for investors to look at if there is a decline?
Okay, there are three sectors that really stand out as we look at the overall market. One is the financial space itself, the BFSI space. Earlier in my conversation, I've already talked about how we are being very positive for the banking space, and we think that's going to continue. So we are in a low interest rate regime, or we are entering into a softer interest rate regime right now, and that's good news for most of the banks because the credit expansion happens, and we're going to see that quite substantially. Plus, the demonetization effect has been actually a blessing in disguise for most of these banks. The second sector we would be positive on is the automobile sector. We will see a lot of consumption. Again, it's partly linked to the interest rate environment that we are entering into. We will see a great deal of surge in terms of demand for automobile companies. We are also on the cusp of new emission non-control norms coming in by April. So we expect demand growth to sort of continue thereafter. So here we are talking of automobiles which are consumer-centric, really speaking. So it comprises of car manufacturers and two-wheeler manufacturers. And the third sector, which is a bit contrarian that we will go positive on, is the entire IT space. Contrary to the views of what most people express in terms of Donald Trump's victory, that IT companies will face a lot of visa kind of pressures. We believe that under Trump's policies, US corporations will have a large growth in their investments. So the investment-led growth is what US is likely to go into, and when a US corporation kind of invests for growth, there is also an expansion in the IT budgets for them. So naturally, the Indian IT companies will be able to participate in that growth in terms of larger deal wins, greater volumes as they go ahead. Visa pressures aside, which seem to be a mere rhetoric right now, we think IT would be a great sector to be in. Their valuation wise very low. They're extremely under-owned from the institutional side or even from the retail side. So I think these are the three sectors to really bet on as we go forward.
Right, and IT particularly, great business model, great disclosure norms, plus again the earnings recovery that you talked about, Sensex, would also be valid for IT. For a few years they have not grown, so the base effect is now not as bad as it was 2-3 years back.
Correct. So one of the contributors to the earnings growth as we go forward is going to come from a host of IT companies. So we should be looking at a lot of investments flowing into the IT sector, and the in general under ownership should bounce back with vengeance. So there'll be a brief momentary period when valuations look expensive after this trade into the IT sector happens. But I think it's a great sector to be in right now.
Right, and within IT, what would be your top picks?
So obviously it's Infosys, so it's a heavily beaten down stock. It's trading at a huge discount to a peer like TCS. TCS by its own measure has also fallen down. So the bellwether stocks are the stocks that one has to be when we talk of the IT sector.
Right. In terms of metals, there's been a divided view. Some say that this is just a bounce back, it will not last. The point that you made about infrastructure spending in US, which can take metals high. Plus, in the last 1 to 2 years, you've not seen any major investment because prices were very, very low for the metal sector. So if the demand grows, there can be a shortage probably after 2-3 years. Would you look at metal names, maybe steel, non-steel, aluminium, zinc? What will be your preference?
So not really, Pankaj, you talked of the US corporation investments, but then the real infrastructure investment in US will not really drive the global demand for metals in general. The metals demand is largely about China. So long as China starts growing quite well, only then will metals will see a huge surge in demand. But right now, even with the current demand environment, there is a general oversupply in the metal space, particularly in the ferrous side and not really on the non-ferrous side. But non-ferrous capacities can quickly bounce back, unlike the ferrous capacities. So all in all, the metal space right now is poised with an oversupply kind of situation. Prices in such environment should remain subdued. Although, if you look at the last few months, price trend, LME prices are shooting up. But that's thanks to the general risk on trade, because there is a real portion of demand and there is this financial demand for metals. The financial demand is going up.
Right, Mahantesh, thank you so much for taking out time for us.